truly want to immerse yourself in the video game experience, we often turn to mods. And some mods turn games into a, life simulator. And some are very, very accurate. Some mods make games look so realistic, and others simulate real life in ways we'd never expected to see. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, 10 games you can mod and make a little too close to real life. Starting off with number 10, it's Kingdom Come Deliverance. I mean, this game's kind of already a real-life simulator. You have to sleep, eat, and trudge around the countryside of medieval Bohemia slowly. Wearing armor is a chore, finding a good place to sleep is not easy, and combat is as deadly as it would be in real life. But even Kingdom Come has to make a few changes to satisfy gamers. If you want the real-life experience, you download mods to make the game even harder. One mod even changes how the bows operate. Already a slow process compared to most games, the mod adds even more weight to your arrows. Now arrows don't just hit what you aim for, they fall faster and change direction based on the wind. You'll totally change your technique because you'll have to. You need to use the first arrow to gauge how your second is going to fly. The arrows will also stay there when they land thanks to the persistent arrows mod, and you'll want to learn how to use those arrows well because the roads become much more dangerous because of the roads are dangerous redux mod. When fast traveling on roads, you're much more likely to encounter bandits or other random events, making travel a lot more incidental. Each arrow is worth keeping because one of the most important mods is the immersive economy mod, changing the value of basically everything you encounter. An apprentice of your status would be earning a fraction of the coin you collect on your adventures in Kingdom Come, so this historically minded mod sets out to remedy that by making your character desperately poor. Sold items only give you 10% of their total value, so farming for loose swords by killing random invading armies isn't gonna cut it. And Kingdom Come Deliverance could be an ugly game. Add a mod. Make the world look more beautifully detailed and we're living in real life sim heaven. There are so many more mods to try, but almost all of them make it actually less realistic. There's mods that remove realistic details like helmet vision, your vision being narrow while wearing a helmet by default. There's mods that make you get dirty slower, infinite inventory, or unlimited saves. This is actually the only game on our list where 99% of mods are desperate to make it less realistic. And number 9 is Fallout 4. Now, Fallout 4 is a game that's a lot more fun when you treat it like a survival adventure. We're not following the main plot, we're just rebuilding the wasteland, And there's multiple mods that make it much more immersive. Our favorite is Sim Settlements 2, which is a ridiculously in-depth mod that makes settlement building actually worthwhile. You can give your NPCs more jobs, they actually pay you taxes, and they build their own houses without you doing it for them. The entire mod it's truly fantastic. Turning Fallout 4 into a wasteland-themed city builder where NPCs actually have job schedules and serve a purpose, yeah, I'll take that. Each settlement becomes a bustling mini-metropolis that works on its own to survive instead of requiring your input on absolutely everything. And that's realism. The boss doesn't do the work, right? The boss delegates. Thanks. When it's time to explore, there's 2 mods that add a touch of realism to the wasteland. The first is drivable vehicles, adding the first drivable cars in the series since Fallout 2 and Fallout Tactics. These vehicles are a lot more realistic, maybe too realistic, because they're completely dependent on the in-game physics engine. They shake, they rumble, and roll like any car you're trying to drive over century-old roads of the Commonwealth, and they look like perfectly flat roads until you're driving on them. Then they become a nightmare. Every road is full of potholes, wrecks, and super mutants taking pot shots at you. Trying to drive in the post-apocalypse is a lot harder than it looks. At number 8 is Ready or Not, a hardcore tactical shooter experience already. You're clearing rooms and shooting really realistic guns, but when you're crazy, like us, we're looking for something a little more realistic. Now, the body cam mod adds an impressive layer of realism to the entire breach and clear experience, forcing you to view the world through a chest-mounted camera that makes each attempt feel like you're watching real police footage. But that's not enough. We need more realism. Kylo_Ren_more.gif. And that's where this Ready or Not Here I Come mod comes into play. The mod completely overhauls the AI, offering a range of options from easy to realistic difficulties for multiple playstyles. The most important option for our purposes is the extreme tactical difficulty. Now the AI is going to lay traps, act in unpredictable ways, and require every bit of your focus as you clear rooms and rescue civilians. But even the civilians are going to end up acting more unpredictable than you might expect. Death comes fast if you screw up, making this mode as unforgiving as the real world. Enemies aren't perfect shots either, thankfully. They're panicky but prepared, ready to sprint away and shoot your team from a new location. Non-lethal weapons will work sometimes, but not all the time. And you're still meant to make arrests, not just gun people down. It's a pretty tense mod pack. Maybe we'll stick with the difficulty that turns you into John Wick, actually, because every bad guy becomes a terrible shot. We need maybe a break from realism, because the next games on this list, they're going into realism overdrive. So whether you're ready or not, let's continue.
In the way, Chief.
We're gonna pack it up. Got it back.
At number 7 is Skyrim, the ultimate modders game, not because it looks realistic, it doesn't. And with every day that passes, it looks less and less so. No, this is a huge world that we all want to be immersed in completely, and that desire demands more elaborate mods with complicated features that make this already impressive world even more engaging. There's thousands of mods for Skyrim that make the world feel infinitely bigger, so here's some of our favorites. The Jobs of Skyrim mod adds dozens of mundane jobs for players or NPCs to do. They make the world feel more alive and give you a chance to live the life of an Elder Scrolls peasant. Who wouldn't want to spend hours shaking citizens down as a tax collector or mixing drinks as a brewer? I mean, not all the jobs are like boring or anything. You'll get an expanded series of thievery jobs to complete. Maybe a random NPC needs to get got or something. You can play as a hired assassin or a hired thief to get paid for all those crimes we want to commit anyway. The problem with this mod is that, well, it's pretty realistic. Some of these jobs are extremely boring, very repetitive. They don't give you a lot of a reward, so it is a lot like real life. Maybe a little too close. For the true simulation experience, you'll want to download the full range of immersive mods for Skyrim. There's the immersive citizens, patrols, creatures, animations. The list goes on. There's tons and tons of thick layers of realism you can add to every aspect of the game, one piece at a time.
Hello, yes. I'm the Dean of History and scribe work when I can find some quiet time.
The Citizens mod adds more dynamic AI for standard NPCs, so they might actually run away when a dragon blows up their towns. Interesting thought. Patrols adds a new faction all over Skyrim. These groups can run into each other. They lead to big battles like the Civil War. Defeating a faction completely not only removes them from Skyrim, but also lessens your own winning faction patrols because you don't need as many friends on the road. The mod adds a tangible effect to the Civil War storyline that we just didn't get before. These all do little changes that make the world feel just a little more alive and real. And also there's hundreds of other mods to try in the future. Skyrim is pretty much the mod game. And number 6 is Elden Ring. For a game about fighting giant monsters, Elden Ring scratches an immersive itch in our brains. It makes us want to make the terrifying world of the lands between just a little more realistic, even if it doesn't necessarily improve the gameplay. The FPS mod is a good start, putting your tarnished hero in extreme disadvantage as you move around the world with a lot less tactical awareness. Trapped in first-person perspective, Elden Ring only becomes more difficult, especially if you use the version of the mod that doesn't smooth your rolls. We installed the fix that doesn't literally cause you to spin whenever you roll because we don't really love puking in our fluted armor. Thank you. Then there's an entirely different type of realism. The convergence makes you feel like a denizen of the world, letting you choose between different enemy factions and tailoring your new job to fit a completely revamped world. You can play as Godskin Celebrant and appear as one of those creepy windmill village things, or become a necromancer and focus on summoning allies to fight for you, an expanded version of the summoning system already seen in the game. It isn't realistic to our world, but it makes more sense in the lands between, like it's more realistic there. And finally, there's this mod that just makes you feel a lot more modern. The Elden Divers mod turns your Lost Tarnished into a tier 1 operator with all the flares required to call down ordnance on your enemies. You summon bombing runs, missile strikes, giant explosives. I can't think of a more realistic way to fight a, well, modern war. Unless you're talking, just like having other people around. And then the Seamless Co-op mod, which lets you summon friends anywhere and play with them at any point. In real life, you're not limited to just a few areas to play with your friends, or indeed take on evil-ish. I don't know. This mod fixes that problem. At number 5 is Jedi Knight 2. Everyone knows about one of our favorite ways to play Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, and that's with cheats enabled. Turn on the right cheats and Kyle Katarn's lightsaber turns into a truly deadly weapon. An errant swing can cut enemies in half and send wiggling parts all over the map. In a game that normally cuts the violence down to a rare lost arm, cutting bodies in half and lobbing off heads suddenly feels a lot more realistic. And no mods are even required here. But we're going to take the lightsaber even further. You can change the settings even more. Instead of turning the realism dial to 1, we're pushing it to 3. If you change the cheat G_saber more realistic to 3, the lightsaber doesn't just become deadly to your enemies, it becomes deadly to anything. If an idle animation makes your lightsaber twirl or twist and an enemy or even you is a little bit in the way, it's cutting through like butter. Suddenly, using a lightsaber becomes a very, very dangerous prospect. At least a real-life sword has a flat side that you can touch. The lightsaber is a weightless ball of pure energy that slices through anything it touches. This is one of the few ways to just really feel like you have true power, raw, freaking crazy power. But also, we'll generally try to shoot the stormtroopers before whipping out the lightsaber. Those things are dangerous. At number 4 is Watch Dogs. Now, Watch Dogs didn't exactly light the world on fire back in 2014 when it originally launched, but it does have a dedicated fan base, and they improve the game pretty constantly, and they have done so steadily for a decade now, and the results speak for themselves. Mods to Watch Dogs have turned a good-looking game into one that's oddly realistic. The Watch Dogs Remastered mod is a big one. City streets pop in a way they never did before. There's these great realistic fog effects, more realistic water, increased city traffic that's more like a real-life Chicago, and even better coat physics for our sometimes annoyingly emo hero. Everything's been overhauled to make this game look as good as possible, and for a small team of modders doing this for fun, it's a pretty big overhaul. Gameplay's been changed too. Vehicles perform more realistically, and optional changes to gunplay make shooting a lot more dangerous. Enemy AI is scarier, actually acting tactically and forcing you to hack instead of getting into direct shootouts with the cops. It's all prettier, it's all deadlier, and all this realism isn't something you really expect from Watch Dogs, which launched to quite a bit of disappointment. At number 3 is Baldur's Gate 3, a game packed with choices. Every encounter has branching paths and hidden content. You can choose to roleplay however you want. You can roleplay as an insane serial killer in this game, or, a clown, I guess. It's a lot of choices, but there's still limits. limits that might not exist in the real world, in fact. That's where these two mods come into play. The No Romance Limit mod that lets you romance as many party members as possible. There are no limits to your love, and not like your other partners are going to find out about a few little transgressions anyways. It's a game. So you can romance multiple party members at the same time. No artificial barriers keeping you from being in a scumbag. So why should that stop you in Baldur's Gate 3? But to be fair, if it was truly realistic, you'd have to roll for charisma every time you cheat. Another mod that removes barriers is Party Limit Be Gone. Instead of limiting you to just 4 characters, the mod brings it all the way up to 16. There's nothing in the real world stopping you for hiring as many goons as possible and beating up goblins. Well, aside from the fact that there aren't really any goblins in the real world. But if there were, you could hire lots of goons. And this mod actually makes mercs even more valuable. You can hire them and customize them entirely as you level up, creating secondary and disposable characters to progress through the story. It also makes the game a lot easier. Sometimes in real life, things are actually easier than a video game. Is the big boss itself realistic? No, but is it more realistic that you would have an easier time with a small army of sword-swinging psychopaths helping you? Absolutely.
I wonder if this is worth the cost.
And number 2 is Starfield, which is kind of a mess in its current state. It's a game that's packed with weird survival elements that don't make any sense. You can catch a cold on a chilly planet while wearing a spacesuit that protects you from absolute 0 temperatures. You can breathe in space, but you can't breathe if you walk near some green gas. Flying to new planets is limited by fuel, but you'll never have to buy a drop of space oil. It's an odd mishmash that fans are trying to tighten up by making spaceflight a little more immersive. There's mods to drop the landing ramp, which gives you a little more control as you land or take off. An actual ship cargo container, you can transfer items instead of the weird and tiny screen. And you can place the cargo container anywhere on the ship. There's a mod that lets you fly between planets more effectively with a super cruise option, so you don't have to watch cutscenes between planets or moons in the same solar system. There's a mod that forces you to refuel your ship when you travel too far, adding purpose to a system that previously felt half-finished. And you can call your ship with another mod, so you never have to trek back to your ship after exploring a planet. All these mods combined add a level of immersion traveling on spaceships lacked before, and there are dozens more mods that change every other aspect of the game. Fans swear by mods for Starfield, and we totally understand why. Finally, at number 1 is Cyberpunk 2077, a game that really merits the full modding experience. Mods completely overhauled the graphics to make the world into a 4K wonder, putting it in a night city like never before. Mods realistically changed the lighting so dark alleys are truly dark and the rest of the city is baked in California sun during the daylight hours. There's dozens of mods that make you feel like you're really there, and if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty, the immersive series adds tiny interactions that make role-playing really come alive. Sitting in the Ripper chairs before getting work done, eating your food after buying from a vendor, taking a drink instead of just buying an item from a menu. All these changes stack up and make Cyberpunk 2077 real feeling. And the wannabe Edge Runner mod adds even more push-pull to the experience, forcing you to play nice with other cyber prosthetics. The more ripped up you are with cybernetics, the more humanity you lose. Shooting innocent people, cops, or regular old thugs lowers your total humanity until you snap and go full psycho. The wannabe Edge Runner mod makes life in Night City more immersive by adding a survival mechanic that you didn't have to consider in the original game, too. You have to think before pulling the trigger.
Вынеслась пизда.
And that's 10 mods that make games a little more realistic, at least in their own little worlds. With the right mods, settings, or cheats, I mean, there's a lot you can add to a game. Realism in games keeps changing as graphics get better and better, and it can mean different things too. But there's still all ways we want to tweak stuff, and if we missed any that you think we should have included, I'm sure we did, because 10 is certainly not enough in terms of games with great realism mods. But leave us a comment and let us know.